of missiles and satellites and all of these things. But then Allah, I think I'm speaking a little bit too much today.
It's okay.
I'm taking too much out of the cat is coming out of the bag. I don't want NATO to know this. I don't want NATO to know this. No, I prefer NATO does not know this at this time. No. Let them go do their research in Surah Ar-Rahman. Yes, I think I've spoken enough. I don't want to speak anymore and reveal anymore. That there is in Surah Ar-Rahman that which explains definitely that the jinn are supporting the efforts for exploration of the stratus of the sky and the depths of the earth. Mm-hmm.
In modern terms, if we say jinns are aliens, do you believe that we are living among them and that Dajjal's science and technological evolution or revolution is actually alien technology?
This is the kind of research I want my students to do when I'm no longer in this world. There are scientists and scholars in the Western world who have integrity in them and who have not lost integrity, no. And these people will fearlessly go back to the Middle Ages and show the link between the scientific and technological revolution and what was called in that time, they call it magic. And when they use the word magic at that time, they didn't use the word magic in the sense in which the casual, frivolous way in which we use the word magic today. No. Magic was a word which was respectable at that time. And it referred to whatever was supernatural that could be used to influence the natural order. And yes, I agree, I confirm it, they're correct. But it's just that we call it the jinn. But this is research work for future Islamic eschatology.
Why do you say the sun rising from the west is symbolic when the Quran confirms in 3 ayats, Surah Rad, Surah Fatir, Surah Yasin, that the sun runs its course for a term appointed or for a period determined? So if the Quran says Allah's creation does not change, is this statement not irrelevant to this subject?
Well, you have to show me in the Quran where Allah says in the Quran that the sun rises from the west. Why don't you cause it to rise from the east? This is Ibrahim alayhi salam confronting the king. And Ibrahim alayhi salam says in the Quran, I believe you must be familiar with it. This is, plain and clear and direct language. I don't think Ibrahim alayhi salam was making a mistake. He said to the king, the sun rises from the east. Why don't you cause it to rise from the west? Meaning, the natural order, the one which Allah has ordained, is the sun rising from the east. And the rival to the natural order is the one that he suggests, come on, let it rise from the west. If Dajjal wants to be a rival to the truth, then Dajjal will have to cause the sun to rise from the west. And I say he's already done that. Because a literal explanation or understanding of the sun rising from the west is not possible. It is in conflict with the Quran because Allah says, La tabdila li khalqillah. Allah's creation does not change. What is Allah's creation? But I just said it. I just said it. Allah's creation is one in which the sun rises from the east and it sets in the west. I don't know whether I have to use another language to explain it. That's what the Quran says. The natural order of Allah's creation is that the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. And therefore when Allah says, La tabdila li khalqillah, Allah's creation does not change. The implication is that the sun will continuously rise from the east and set in the west. That's the implication of what is in the Quran. And so if there's a hadith which says that Dajjal will cause the sun to rise from the west, it cannot be understood literally. Those who want to understand it literally, that's your choice. I reject that. You do not have to accept my views. No, you can continue to believe that one day the sun is going to go opposite, or the moon, the earth is going to revolve opposite direction, and that all that nonsense. If you want to believe in that nonsense, I'm not stopping you. Go ahead and believe. NASA will continue giving you evidence to support the view that the earth is going to revolve in a different direction, and then the sun is going. Yes, if you want to accept that stuff, go ahead, accept it. But why should I have to accept it? No. I have said that a literal explanation is impossible because it will be in conflict with the Quran. And therefore it is a symbolic or metaphorical explanation. And therefore there will come upon the world a false sunrise. And that false sunrise will come from the West. And that is modern Western civilization. Okay? Then of course they'll come after me. Oh, but when the sun rising from the west, no more Tawbah after that. Okay? Well then, perhaps you might want to continue, go back, leave me alone and go back with your nonsense, and I don't have to convince you that the sun is going to rise, that there's going to be a western sunrise. If you want to believe in that, go ahead and leave it. Leave me alone. Leave me alone with your nonsense. Go ahead. I don't need you. I don't need you. And I have no problems at all in your accepting the nonsense that one day the rotation of the earth is going to change and the sun is going to literally rise from the west. I have no problem with that nonsense. If you want to accept that nonsense, why don't you please accept it and leave me alone? I have more important things to do than pay attention to nonsense.
In 2015, during Hajj time, a crane collapsed inside Masjid al-Haram, killing 111 people and injuring 394. And then thousands of people died in Mina. Are these signs of the coming of Imam al-Mahdi?
I don't think I have any capacity to connect this with Imam al-Mahdi. No, somebody else more learned than me will have to answer that question, yeah.
Saudi Arabia's powerful Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wants to reform Saudi Arabia into moderate Islam. His government arrested several princes over anti-corruption, and they bombed Yemen, aided Syrian rebels, cut ties with Qatar, and has recently accused Turkey and Iran of being part of a triangle of evil. What is Prince Salman's main agenda?
No, first of all, I want to take up the term moderate Islam. And I want to translate that for you in the English language. What is moderate Islam? And this is an explanation of the term moderate Islam that will please all those who manage and control the affairs of the masajid. You know, the management committee that controls the masjid? Yeah, this is the explanation for them. Moderate Islam is that Islam that will allow you to keep your name off the no-fly list. Moderate Islam is that Islam where no one will say you are a terrorist. Moderate Islam is that Islam in which you do not insist that a woman must cover her head with hijab. Moderate Islam is that Islam in which a man can shake hands with a woman. Yes. And if you refuse to shake hands with a woman, that is called radical Islam. So take your moderate Islam and put it back in the garbage bin from where it emerged in the first place. Islamic scholarship don't use this rubbish as terms. Islamic scholarship does not accept terminology from people who are waging war on Allah. On Allah, they're waging war on Allah. So we do not use this rubbish term of moderate Islam. The scholars from Oxford University, of course, they can continue to use this terminology of moderate Islam and radical Islam. But the true scholar of Islam will not betray Allah and His Messenger. What we say is there are Muslims who are true Muslims, and then there are part-time Muslims. That's the terminology we will use. Okay? And so, we do not want to accept terminology which will program us to talk and to think and to act in a manner consistent with the programming designed by our enemies. That's moderate Islam.
Rohingya Muslims are facing the worst genocide in recent history. Men, women, children are being slaughtered, burnt alive. Along with the villages, women and children are being raped by Myanmar army and Buddhists. Those that have managed to escape have all fled to Bangladesh. Some are stuck in no man's land. We have now more than 1 million Rohingya Muslims in Bangladesh, which include thousands of children whose parents were killed, thousands of women who are pregnant because they were raped by Myanmar army. Some of them now have HIV. My uncle went to the Rohingya camps and he saw with his own eyes. Also, one of my friends who is a journalist who works for a Bangla news channel. Young Rohingya men carried their disabled parents from Myanmar to Bangladesh. As far as I know, every journalist, aid worker, ordinary people who went there in the Rohingya camps cried their eyes out. Why is this happening to Rohingya Muslims?
The answer is Gog and Magog. Allah spoke in the Quran and He says, Inna Ya'juja wa Ma'juja mufsiduna fil ard. That Gog and Magog will perpetrate facade on earth. Our great-grandparents, our ancestors had to crawl on the earth before the British imperial masters. They had to go down and bend their knees and their hands like animals to crawl before a British imperial master and lord, because they insisted on that. So the war on our people has been continuing for a long, long time. The same kind of rape and plunder and killing and massacre that's taking place in this part of the world compares with the impoverishment of the masses around the world through riba. And our people are suffering, they are in destitution. Masses all around the world. Do not study the Rohingya subject in isolation. No. There are massacres taking place so many other parts of the world, they just don't mention it. And there is suffering, including the Palestinian people in Gaza, who are now on the verge of collapse. And our Prophet told us that these things will happen. We don't have to look for an answer why, because the Quran told us why it's happening. In fact, there's more to come. The Arabs are going to be destroyed. This is the Rohingya. What is coming to the Arabs is worse. So are you going to ask me tomorrow, why are the Arabs suffering like this? Yeah? This is what the Quran has said, and said this is Gog and Magog. Now those who are resisting Gog and Magog, we at least have some credentials. We are having some credentials that we are looking forward to the day when we can protect our people when Imam al-Mahdi comes, inshallah, and we regain power in the world, the Khilafah state is restored. But what about those who wage their bogus jihad in Syria? Taking weapons from Saudi Arabia, which is hand in glove with the Gog and Magog world order. And then they want to condemn me, saying that I am supporting Assad. And Assad is a dog, and Assad is a cat, and Assad is a louse, and Assad is this, and Assad is that, and Assad and the other. And you are supporting Gog and Magog. You are hand in glove with Gog and Magog. You are taking weapons from the CIA. You are taking American dollars to wage your bogus jihad, and you want to have me say you are people worthy of respect. I say to you, you are not Muslims. I say to you, you have left Islam. I say to you, if you die in that bogus jihad, I will not pray over your body. And I'll never stand at your grave. You're traitors. But you were brainwashed. And now you realize that you are brainwashed and you don't know how to get out of your predicament. The answer is that you must make tawbah. Yes, tawbah. And separate yourself from that evil world. That world which is causing that Rohingya massacre. And they're sending the money to support the massacre. They're the paymasters. The same people who gave you the weapons to go to Syria are the same people who are paying for the Rohingya massacres to continue. Same people. The same people who are giving you the US dollars to go and wage your bogus jihad are the same people who are paying for the Rohingya massacre to continue all the time. Same people doing it. So you are the ones we have to condemn. Not Gog and Magog, because we know about Gog and Magog in the Quran. You who have joined with them and left the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And now you're embarrassed because you went to Syria and you killed so many people and you come back to the Western world. And you want to condemn me because I expose you for what you have done. You're bogus jihad. You're not going to be part of our Ummah until you make tawbah for what you've done and seek Allah's forgiveness for what you have done. And stop this bogus jihad in Syria. If Russia had not intervened, Syria would have become another Libya. And you would have celebrated if Syria had become another Libya, because you are in the camp of Gog and Magog. That's it. We pray that Allah may protect us from you.
Do you have any advice for Bangladesh government? Because they're already done a lot for Rohingya.
I cannot comment on the Bangladeshi government and its policies on that subject because I don't have enough knowledge.
Okay.
I think we've had a long time.
Just 3 more questions left. I'm going to be really quick. In Hadith Jibril, when Prophet ﷺ was asked about the signs of the last hour, and he said, one of them, he said, the slave woman will give birth to her master or mistress. You mentioned in a lecture that this is to do with riba and commercial surrogacy, which is women are being hired to give birth to someone else's child. My question is this actually a sign of married gay couples wanting babies? Because it seems like more and more women are being hired by gay couples to give birth to their children.
That could be one of the ways in which surrogate parenting took place, yes. Mm-hmm.
How do we survive the coming wars? Can remote villages in the countryside guarantee the safety of Muslims from the upcoming destructions of the nuclear clash between Gog and Magog?
The first thing is that the Muslim who is a Muslim is not afraid to die. If you have the fear of death in your heart and you're searching for some corner of Allah's earth where you can survive and not die, then something is wrong with your heart. A Muslim is not afraid to die, number one. Number two, a Muslim has the faith in his heart that no one can take his life. None. If Allah has not ordained death, no one can take his life. And if Allah has ordained that he should die, nothing he can do will keep him alive. So a Muslim submits to Allah. If Allah has ordained life for me, I will live. And if Allah has ordained that I should die, I will die. When the big war takes place, if you have your heart in the right place, and you have faith in Allah, and you're not afraid to die, if you die in the great war, then you will be raised as shaheed. That's the good news for you. It's good news for you. And there is in Surah Ar-Rahman, if you go to Surah Ar-Rahman and you see the verses connected with the great war, the Malhama, you will see where Allah speaks of those who will be raised and their faces will be with nur. And there'll be others who will be raised after the Malhama, the Great War, and their faces will not be like that. That's the first response I have to say concerning the Great War. The second one is you have a duty to get out of the cities of the modern world before that war takes place. Make provisions to go to the remote countryside, because a Muslim has a duty to protect himself and his family from the fire. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. If Allah is going to destroy a country because this country has a man marrying another man and getting a marriage certificate, you should not be in that country. You should leave. If you cannot leave such a country, you should at least leave the cities and go to the remote countryside. But I have said this probably 500,000 times already. I have said it probably 500,000 times already. And when you go to the remote countryside, go and live in small communities. You don't have to be Muslim, you could have Christians, you could have Hindus, you could have Jews, but you must live as a community together in mutual respect and helping each other. In the cities they will kill each other for food and water after the Great War. But in the remote countryside they'll share with each other whatever little food and water they have. And you must try to plant some food so you'll be able to survive.
My last question. It is suggested by the UK government that from 2019 children going to primary schools will be taught about relationships, including LGBT relations, which is gay, lesbian, bisexual, these relations. Members of the Jewish, Christian and Muslim faith are opposing this. What is your advice for the Muslims living in the UK?
You cannot prevent it. No, because this is not happening by accident. No, this is by divine design. Allah is testing you. Allah is testing you. You have come to this part of the world which is rich, and you've left that part of the world which is miserably poor. The Prophet said that people will follow Dajjal because of his mountain of bread. He said so, that people will follow Dajjal for his bread because he has a mountain of bread. He said so. So, if you choose to remain with the bread and the affluent life and the comfortable life, then you will not be able to keep your children. No, you will lose your children. That's the price you will pay. If you take your children out of the school, because in the school they're being taught that a man can marry another, and incidentally I don't use this LBGT terminology. You'll never hear me for that. I will never use such terminology. It is homosexuality and it is condemned in the Quran. Don't hide it with cosmetic words like gay. No. It is condemned in the Quran, and I will not tolerate a cosmetic covering of terminology which should be condemned. Homosexuality it is, and the school will teach your children that a man can marry another man. That's acceptable behavior. That's their morality. So you take your child out of the school and you want to do homeschooling. But guess what? They don't have to send inspectors now knocking at doors to get information. No. Cryptocurrencies is coming to fulfill a certain function. The function of cryptocurrencies is to bring down the monetary system that now exists, so that an entirely electronic monetary system will replace it. That's the function of cryptocurrencies. When that electronic monetary system takes over completely, I was traveling from Geneva to London with British Airways. When I wanted to buy a bottle of water, they told me I can't pay for it cash. That's what it is. A bottle of water, you have to pay for it electronically. That's British Airways. So it's coming now, the rope is tightening around our necks, and yet they ban Imran Hosein from coming to the masjid to lecture. Shame on you. So when the electronic monetary system takes over completely, They don't need to send people to knock on the doors of your house. They know your profile. You can't even buy a loaf of bread without an electronic trail. So when they see that you've taken your children out of school and you're homeschooling, in order to protect your children from that homosexuality and so on, then they'll find an excuse to come and seize your children from you and take your children away from you and give your children to couples who will maintain your children and be caregivers for your children to ensure that your children go to such a school and be taught that a man can marry another man and get a marriage certificate. At that time when that happened, please do me a favor. Don't send me an email. Don't send me an email to ask me, Sheikh, what can I do? They took my children. That's coming, yeah.
So this was my last question. I would like to thank you, Sheikh, and your students in Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, they all asked me to tell you the salam, and they want you to pray for them so that they can learn eschatology, and they want guidance. So they're seeking guidance in the Quran and the Hadith, and they just don't want to be betrayed as the ancestors. I mean, the grandfathers and fathers. Some of them have followed such sheikhs that no one ever explained eschatology the way you've explained. So
tell them I thank them for their du'as for me, that Allah might protect me, that I may be able to travel safely and that I may not be harmed by my enemies, and that Allah may be able to provide for me, that I can be able to continue doing the work that I do. And if they make that dua for me, then my response is, do no bad. Do no bad? Do no bad, yes, thank you. Okay.